Little girls from Sweden dream of silver screen quotations. And if you want these kind of dreams, it's Californication. Civilization. Some may rise in the east, at least it's settled in a final location. It's understood that Hollywood sells Californication. King Sergeant Mary on the brink, the smile of aging. Celebrity scandals, the searching for Disney for your waging.
Welcome back, viewers. It's James Kalmroughcut, reporter down the bike, and we're on Broadway in Tribeca. We're going to run in here at Shrine, see an exhibition. Stay tuned. And the show we're going to look at is Elise Ferguson, Threshold. Well, I've seen Elias's work before. And, well, I've been talking a lot about the new abstraction, so this is kind of a good example of that. This is titled Tower 2025. Pigmented plaster and pencil on panel, 48 by 36. One of the things I think is interesting about the work is that Elias has a very interesting process here. This is all on plaster. It's titled JoJo Water 2025, Pigmented Plaster and Pencil on Panel. So Elias builds up a base layer, a base coat of some kind of Venetian plaster. Multiple rounds of pigmented Venetian plaster onto panels, and they're kind of beveled. And then the forms are laid in with silkscreen. And in the press release, they actually make a note of, although this would seem to have a very kind of a mechanical process, there's a lot of flubs, kind of keep the hand, the paw in there. This is titled Shaker. Anyway, we have our pencil grids that lay out the format. Then Elias comes in and does the silk screens, and I like the way that you've got repeated forms, things that are kind of cut up, reassembled. And yeah, there is a richness to the plaster, the flatness that is kind of sensual. This is titled Bench. I like the one color on the black background, very nice. Well, in the press release, they talk about how Elias is very influenced by the Shakers and textile design. Oh, I like the kind of dirty yellow stripe here on the bottom. Seagate 2025. Pigment and plaster and pencil on pound 48 by 36. And here is another thing that I haven't seen before, are the, I guess you would call these folding, almost like a screen. This is titled JoJo. Oh, I kind of get it. It's almost like you've got a J and some O's. Okay, this is different in that this is ink and pencil on Irish linen. And this is 79 by 141. I was wrong. I think these are just kind of free-hanging sheets. And another one. This is Charms, ink and pencil on Irish linen, 84 by 130. Well, as I said, I was interested in this work as an example of some of the new abstraction, especially the formalist abstraction, and I appreciate the silk screening. I was always a fan of Warhol and kind of the possibilities that opens up. Also, I'm wondering if these are the same screens that she used on another piece, the piece titled Shaker. Again, I think there's a lot of very subtle color things. I think maybe the top couple of rows are more of a phthalo blue, shading into a ultramarine blue, and then down into the cadmium red. We're going to go in the back room and take a look at another exhibition. Okay, we're going to take a run through an intimate little show by Dena Novak titled Domestic Saturation. I saw some Instagram posts featuring some of these paintings and sculptures, and as you know, I'm a fan of chunky painting, so I thought I'd have to come in and take a look. And it's actually appropriate that we've got this kind of show going up against Elias's show with the very tough formalism versus very brushy, freewheeling, paint-slinging expressionism. This is titled Rococo Maximalism 2025, oil and spray paint on wood panel. Actually, I'm looking at this section with the comb. Makes me think of some of the works in front. This is 48 by 32. Okay, I always like it when people are squeezing the paint right out of the tube. And we've got some sculpture. This is titled Boxing with Pollock. This is oil on ceramic. Okay, so we've got our little basic form. And then Dena has goobed on the oil paint on top of that. This is titled Teapot, oil on ceramic. Although I don't think anybody would want to drink the tea that had steeped in this pot. This is 10 by 12 by 9. This is titled Women Lounging 2025. Okay, so this is more straight ceramic. I can see the glazes, which are pretty nice. There's a little oil paint. What does it say? This is straight ceramic. Okay. And we'll wrap up with this. And this is titled Deconstruction of My Domestication. Oil on wood, 60 by 72 inches. Okay, well, we'll sort of slide over. You can get a chance to see some of the various surfaces, the shiny versus the matte, the chunky versus the smooth. So, whenever I look at a painting like this, I wonder how much time Dena has to put this aside in the studio to let it dry before you can even move it around. Oh, I got some crackle. Oh, and metallic paint. Also, I start to wonder about how much a painting like this weighs. James Kalm reporting on Domestic Saturation by Dena Novak here at Shrine, and Elise Ferguson, Threshold here at Shrine. We are here at the Drawing Center, and we want to run in here and see the Beauford Delaney show in the medium of life, the drawings of Beauford Delaney. Stay tuned. drawing center for the Works on Paper show by Beauford Delaney. Well, we've got about a half an hour before closing time. So we'll make a urgent run through this. And we might not be able to get to all of the memorabilia. Self-portrait 1964, watercolor, gouache, and graphite on paper, courtesy of Ruth and Joe Frieden, Knoxville. Well, I became acquainted with the work of Beauford Delaney through the Michael Rosenfeld Gallery. So we got some untitled landscapes. So this would be in the late 70s, early 80s. Oh, Henry Miller, I was going to mention that. I think one of the first people that wrote kind of a very poignant review, appreciation of Beauford Delaney was Henry Miller. I think that he came across his work at the Washington Square Art Fair, maybe in the late 40s. It's also untitled 1961. More untitled. And Beauford was, okay, this is a portrait of Bernard Hassel, 1968. Also Bernard Hassel. Beauford was a big part of the downtown art scene, the Greenwich Village art scene. Untitled 1935, charcoal on paper. And in my mapping, I have seen that he had a loft near what would be, these days would be Soho, but I guess that there were a couple of blocks that were torn down when NYU decided to expand its campus down to Houston Street. Joseph Delaney, 1933. Wonder if that's his brother. I know he did have a brother, and I've seen some of his work at Michael Rosenfeld. Entitled Portrait of a Man. These are pastels, 1930s. I'm not sure. I think Beauford came from somewhere in the South, maybe Tennessee or something. Kentucky, somewhere down there. And came to New York, and I believe he studied and started his career. This is James Baldwin, 1945. And I think James Baldwin was one of his lovers, friends. They were in a relationship or had a very long friendship. It's 1940. Untitled. Head of a Poet, 1944. And probably about 2 years ago, I think I covered a show at Michael Rosenfeld, and the main theme was his portraits, but specifically his portraits of James Baldwin. Some of them are really, really exquisite. Oh boy, now these are the pieces that got my attention. It's titled Yaddo, 1950, pastel on paper. Delaney created this panel of the greenhouses at Yaddo, an artist and writer's colony near Saratoga Springs in New York in the fall of 1950. So we got a little stove in there. Delaney wrote to his friend, the author Henry Miller, that he intended to return home to New York to get rid of all my junk and go to Paris. Okay, well, so that was about the time that he did leave New York, went to Paris. I guess he was facing a lot of racism and other various things. He was gay and just ended up going to Paris and finding out that life was much easier there, much better. Yeah, this is great. This is Paris, 1953. I think the thing that attracted me about these was I was always a big fan of Stuart Davis, and I think that Davis influenced this period of Delaney's work. So this is the work from Paris. This is when he starts to go abstract. It's untitled Abstract Circles, 1956. Pastel and mixed media on paper, and I would say that that's probably about 28 by 20, something like that. Chartres, 1954, oil on paperboard. Well, I'm sure that Beauford was probably aware of what was happening with the abstract expressionists, and in a certain way it was kind of maybe a great sacrifice for him to leave New York at that time when the ab-exers were getting so much attention. But I think in a certain way he kind of broke out in his own direction and ended up creating some of the first kind of harmonic, coloristic overall abstractions. These are 5 untitled drawings, 1956, ink on paper. I'm also thinking that, gosh, there's a lot of this work I haven't seen, and somebody must have been taking care of his estate. This is untitled 1960. And I think that there were some people in New York who were sort of carrying on in a similar direction. I think Milton Resnick would be one of them. I think that maybe some of the early Alhels were kind of atmospheric monochromes like this. Untitled Charmart, 1959, watercolor and gouache on paper. This is untitled. Also untitled. And at the Michael Rosenfeld Portraits exhibition, there were a lot of paintings that basically had this kind of fluttering bouquets of brushstrokes, and then somehow the head would kind of emerge out of that. It's untitled Istanbul, Turkey, 1966, watercolor on paper. I would say that is 30 by 22 inches. And there's a kind of a nice calligraphic sense to that. untitled 1969. Well, I think Beauford might have also had some psychological challenges. And I'm not sure, but I think he might have even been, or spent some time in some kind of medical institution in Paris. These are both untitled 1969. And then we've got more of the atmospheric pieces that are untitled. I think there's a watercolor and gouache. We'll just sort of slide down the wall. Okay, this is an oil painting, untitled Oil on Canvas, 1959. Ahmed Bloud, 1961, Oil on Paper. Oh, that's a very nice piece. Untitled 1961. Facilitated by his friend James Baldwin, Delaney relocated to a modest studio outside of Paris in the quiet suburb of Kalm, where he worked from 1956 to 1961. Removed from the bustle of Montparnasse, the move marked a profound shift in Delaney's artistic evolution. So we've got a series of untitled watercolors. This is 1961, and well, you can see that Beauford would probably soak the entire piece of paper and then work wet and wet. Well, there's an incredible amount of freedom in some of these. It's all untitled. This is a wonderful study in his color and color contrasts. Untitled Gauze on Arches Paper. More untitled. Guys, these look extremely fresh. It's 1962. Untitled Red Bar, 1962. More untitled. This is West African figurine, early 1960s. Untitled African Figurine, 1968. Oil monoprint on paper. Well, one of the things I do appreciate about Beauford is that he's got a touch. He's got a touch for the paint, and it's very unique. Entitled Self-Portrait, Oil and Monoprint on Paper, collection of Nancy and Charlie Wagner. Well, monoprint, you just take a plate, basically paint your image on there, and then run it through the press. And then if you want, after it dries, you can paint on top of that. It's kind of a second impression. Self-portrait, 1962. Oil on canvas. I think Beauford was very self-aware of being an artist. It's another portrait. Although I was thinking, this makes me think of Romare Bearden from the early 60s, maybe. It's a self-portrait. Another self-portrait. Yeah, I like this. These look like they're just torn out of a newsprint sketch pad. Self-portrait in a Paris bathhouse. (1971). Well, actually quite a nice little painting. I like the kind of the framing elements that he's used. Mother's Portrait, aka Portrait of Dena Delaney, 1964, all on canvas. And, well, we saw this at the portrait show. And he does have kind of a standard palette that he uses, a lot of yellow. Untitled, 1971. Oh, this is sweet. Ink wash, pastel, graphite, and ballpoint pen on paper. Self-portrait, 1970. Gouache on paper. Okay, so they're saying that this is a study for an oil painting. self-portrait oil on board, 1970. Untitled, 1967. Okay, so he's doing a lot of work like this with stained watercolors, and meanwhile in New York you've got a whole bunch of people like Helen Frankenthaler, Morris Louis, Kenneth Nolan that are all making careers out of stain paintings. It's untitled, 1965, gouache watercolor on paper. Much of this work is with the Michael Rosenfeld Gallery. This is the last piece, untitled, 1965. Gouache watercolor on paper. I would say that's probably about 24 by 17. Untitled, 1946. Oh, I've got some of the more cubistic, realistic street scenes. I love this period. Green Street, 1950. Okay, I saw this painting at the Marlborough Gallery 2 summers ago. It's beautiful. Untitled, traffic signal, 1945. Oil on canvas. Well, I was down in Washington, D.C. a couple of weeks ago and visiting the Smithsonian Museum of American Art and the National Portrait Gallery and some other galleries down there. And the one thing that I always like about going to Washington, D.C. is that you get a chance to see a lot of classic American art. If you stay here in New York, you only get a very small spectrum of what's going on out there. And well, there's a lot more than just New York happening. Untitled. Also untitled watercolor. It's 1948. Okay, thank you. It's untitled. So this has been James Kalm reporting on In the Medium of Life, the drawings of Beauford Delaney, here at the Drawing Center. You can like this, share, link it up to all your social media sites, and you can leave your thoughts, ideas, comments, criticisms, and reviews below. And they are running us out because it's past closing time, but we only ask you to say, thank you, Kate. Oh, and you can subscribe.